This is Tailspin. Tailspin is a rocket I've been developing with active controls that uses canards to stabilize roll. But what are canards? How do they work? And why does the tail spin? In this video, we'll cover all of that, how it ties into the rocket's roll control system, and how the roll control has been dramatically improved since the first flight. Alright, so what are canards? Canards are front-mounted control surfaces used to control a vehicle in flight. Mounting control surfaces up front gives the vehicle excellent maneuverability, and why canards are often used in missile programs like the highly successful AIM-9 Sidewinder. But they're also found on aircraft as old as the Wright Flyer, and on modern jets like the Eurofighter Typhoon. They do, however, have one drawback: vortices. Vortices are rotating columns of air that form at the tips of fins or wings during flight. Because canards are at the front of the rocket, they'll produce small vortices that propagate across the rear fins if they're in line with the airflow, and usually aren't a big deal. However, if we increase this deflection angle to induce a desired roll on the rocket, the vortices can actually grow and push the fins in the opposite direction. By allowing the fins to rotate freely, the rocket avoids this roll reversal issue, and why I decided to go this route. When designing the rocket, I had a couple of design considerations. Most of the rocket would be 3D printed, and my previous projects were starting to push PLA to the breaking point. Therefore, I wanted to print the parts requiring the most thermal and structural stability with polycarbonate carbon fiber, then the other parts with ASA. I also wanted it to be smaller than the typical high-powered rockets that I fly. I don't need this going up 2 miles, I don't need it weighing 20 pounds, and I really don't need it going supersonic.
Come on, got smoke.
I just wanted it to be able to fly a few hundred meters at reasonable speeds, which would help keep this project as safe as I can. Therefore, I opted for a 66mm body tube design and motors in the 29mm family. To validate my requirements, I went into RockSim, a tool used to simulate model rocket flights, and started drawing out the rocket's concept shape based on the size that I wanted. I applied a ballpark weight to it, then picked a handful of motors to run simulations on, so I felt confident moving on to making the rocket. I designed the airframe as two main parts, the spin can and the body tube. The spin can is printed in PCCF and consists of an outer fin shell and an inner motor mount, held together with screws. To allow the fins to rotate, I took 2 ball bearings, printed PCCF housings for them, then epoxied them to the motor mount. The fins spin around the motor mount so that the motor itself doesn't rotate. Otherwise, it would transfer that rotation to the body tube by rubbing against the shock cord or parachute. To hold the motor itself, an Aeropack 29mm screw-on retainer is used. The body tube is fit onto the spin can and held in place by screws and has an inner PCCF ring epoxied to the tube to strengthen the connection. Traditionally, these parts are one unit, but I wanted to be able to swap out individual parts in the event the airframe got damaged, instead of swapping out the entire thing. In order for the airframe to slide onto the 1010 rail, I designed and printed PCCF rail buttons and epoxied them to the body tube. The avionics section consists of 3 main parts: the avionics bay, the canard module, and the nose cone. The avionics bay is printed in ASA and houses Lightning, the brains of the rocket. Lightning is the successor to Mustang and is a teensy 4.1 base flight computer that handles all of the rocket's flight operations. This includes things like orientation and position estimates, flight event logic, deployment charges, canard servo commands, data logging, and sending telemetry to my handheld ground receiver. To gather the onboard footage, I attached a RunCam Split 4 4K to the avionics bay, then pointed it towards the tail section. To turn on the avionics section, I used a small switch that can be toggled with a straight pin by putting a guiding channel underneath the switch's button. The canard module and canards are made up of PCCF and use 4 BMS 125 servos that are placed into the module then screwed into place. To strengthen the servo arms against lateral loads, I took ball bearings, then friction fit them into the module's outer wall. The canards were then put into the ball bearings and screwed into the servo's circular horn. Topping the stack is the nose cone section, which houses the GPS module, battery, and has all parts printed in ASA. I designed the different sections to be able to stack into each other and fit into place. They're able to do this because the tops and bottoms have key shapes to make sure that they're aligned properly. At this point, the coupler, which also has a keyhole piece, and wires running to lower Wago connectors for the deployment charge, is fit over the assembly as well. To lock everything together, an eye bolt that's epoxy to a long threaded rod is inserted into the assembly, along with a washer and nut in the nose cone module, and then screwed into place. This way, the entire assembly is reinforced by this rod and should make sure that we don't lose anything at apogee during parachute deployment. From here, the nose cone shell is fit over the top of the assembly and fit into place with screws. The camera's hood and cover are then applied, as well as the back plate, with everything using screws to hold them into place. The avionics section and the airframe are then connected together using tubular, nylon, and quick links, with one quick link connecting to the eye bolt on the avionics section and the other to the paracord loop, which runs into and loops back out of the motor mount and reinforced by epoxy. The avionics section is then slid into the airframe, completing the full integration of the rocket. If you're enjoying this project and want to get into rocketry yourself, then I'm really excited to show you Upload. This is a kit that I've been working on with the awesome team over at Apogee Components and is a beginner-friendly, mid-power 2.2-inch diameter rocket capable of flying C through F motors and can reach altitudes over 2,300 feet. The visual style pulls from advanced rocketry with its circuit trace decals, giving it a high-tech avionics look. I'll be putting together a full build video for this kit, where I'll also highlight how the skills you pick up here naturally translate into bigger, more complex rocket projects. You can buy yours today at apogeerockets.com/upload, and if you use coupon code Horizon at checkout, you'll receive $10 off any order with an Upload kit. Alright, now let's talk about the software. Tailspin software is written in Arduino C++ and runs on the same core framework as my high-powered rockets. The only major addition is the new Canard control logic, along with a few extra safety features. During ascent and only after 20 meters, the control logic activates and drives only 2 canards for roll stabilization. To do this correctly, the computer calculates roll error, feeds that into a PID loop, then solves a series of equations to get the right servo angle. To get my first set of flyable PID gains, I used model-in-the-loop testing by creating a flight simulation in Simulink with my control logic and trying different gain combinations until the response looked good. I also modeled a 90-degree roll command to stress test the control system, and once I had the gains I trusted, Tailspin was ready for its first flight. Before getting to the flights, I want to cover some of the safety considerations for this project, since active controls aren't very common in the hobby. All flights are done at NAR or EEE clubs and only with their permission. Both clubs I fly with have been extremely supportive and fully aware what this project involves. Before each flight, I check the canard alignment by setting their neutral position in software and verifying it with a 3D printed alignment tool. Roll control is enabled only after 20 meters to allow the rocket to clear the rail and allow some extra distance from the launch area. If Tailspin rolls more than 2 revolutions or tilts past a certain angle, then the canards will lock to 0 for the rest of the flight. All new control features are bench tested before flight by giving the flight computer fake data and observing the control system's response. The difference between intentional roll control and unintentional pitch control can be as simple as one servo moving the wrong way, so these checks are incredibly important. And finally, developing a model alongside the rocket gives me a safer starting point for tuning gains, even if the simulation isn't 100% perfect. Okay, now on to the flights.
Heads up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
Okay, let's start with the obvious. Once roll control kicked in after takeoff, Tailspin started spinning a lot, and I could tell right away from watching it on the ground. Looking at the data, it was obvious the control response was extremely weak, and as soon as I saw that, I knew exactly what the issue was. The PID library I use defaults to a 10 Hz update rate unless you decide to set it manually, which I had forgotten to do. So I added in the update rate that I was using in my Simulink model, and went out to fly again.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
Right away you can see that the roll control is much more stable now that the PID update rate matches a faster frequency used in my model. And looking at the data, you get a clean step response with a little bit of ringing, which just means there's still some tuning to do. But overall, this is a really solid proof of concept. In the onboard footage, you can actually see just how the free spinning fins help prevent roll reversal. When the canards correct the rocket to the right, the fins get pushed left by the vortices, and because they can spin freely, that force doesn't get transferred into the airframe. This flight was also a really good reminder of why recovery redundancy matters. Tailspin uses both flight computer deployment at apogee and a motor ejection setup for 2 seconds after that. The main charge fired, but the chute briefly got hung up in the airframe, and so the motor delay is actually what saved the flight. Going forward, I've bumped up the flight computer's black powder charge, and haven't had a problem since. The end goal of this project is to have Tailspin have full roll and orientation control, and with that last flight I felt confident on moving on to the next portion of the project. Early tests are looking pretty good, but there's still some development to go, so keep a lookout for a future video on orientation control for Tailspin. In the meantime, I'll be working on a build video for the upload kit. The finalized packaging just came in, so really excited to get started on that and get that video out for you. Anyway, that's about all I got for you today, so thank you so much for watching. My name's Mark, and I'll see you next time.